trespass against us. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from our fear. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Oh, Father, please forgive us too, for we know what we do. Oh, Father, please forgive us too, for we know what we do. Let justice roll down like water, and righteousness like a stream. We drink from the cup that's filled with love for you and for me. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from our fear. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Our Father, oh our Father who art in heaven, oh thy kingdom come, oh thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, heaven. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Good morning. We welcome you to the February 9th, 2023 elected council meeting of the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County. David Longhurst. David Longhurst is our co-chair, and he's going to be moderating our meeting. Take it away, Dave.
Good morning, everyone. It's really nice to be with you this morning, and thanks for joining. Our first item of business is to approve the minutes of the most recent, well, it wasn't the most recent elected council meeting in January, Reverend Will. I think it's the January 12th minutes. Can I have a motion for approval? And a second? Motion moved, second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please show by raising your hand. Any opposed? Please note. or send in the chat, since we've got a limited number of screens available to us. Very good. The next item of business is the land acknowledgement and opening statement by Reverend Will.
Thank you. As we acknowledge the lands on which we work, serve, and play, let us remember the first inhabitants of these lands, especially the Chochenyo Ohlone, the Karki Ohlone, the Bamiwak, and the Tachiyokuts people. The Philippines is a culturally diverse country with an estimated 14 to 17 million indigenous peoples, belonging to 110 ethno-linguistic groups. They are mainly concentrated in northern Luzon, the Cordelia Administrative Region, and the Mindanao, with some groups in the Visayas area. The Philippine Constitution, in recognition of this diversity and under the framework of national unity and development, mandates state recognition, protection, promotion, and fulfillment of the rights of indigenous peoples. Further, the Republic Act of 8371, also known as the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act, recognized the rights of indigenous peoples to manage their ancestral domains. It has become the cornerstone of the current national policy in the Philippines. Despite the abundance of natural resources around them, the indigenous peoples in the Philippines, like their global counterparts, are ranked among the poorest and most disadvantaged sector. They are deprived of rights and opportunities to develop capacities to cope with the fast-changing social, economic, and political environment. The ILO supports empowerment of indigenous women and men through a dual strategy of intervention, promoting policies to protect their rights, including through the Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention, 1989, and supporting capacity building initiatives through technical cooperation projects for indigenous peoples in their ancestral domains. The convention is consistent with the framework established by national law and the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Many of the 110 ethno-linguistic indigenous groups in the Philippines experience discrimination, degradation of natural resources, and armed conflict. IP communities, generally located in distinct ancestral territories, have high rates of unemployment, underemployment, and illiteracy. While their social, economic, cultural, and spiritual lives revolve around their ancestral domains, indigenous peoples see their ownership of land shrinking and disregarding. To address challenges faced by indigenous peoples in the aftermath of natural disasters, the ILO produced various guidelines to implement culture and gender-sensitive disaster response there.
Thank you very much, Reverend Will. Now we'll have a reading of the covenant. Could I have a volunteer to read the covenant? It's here on the screen, so someone if would like to volunteer just to read it would really appreciate it.
I can do that, Dave.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dale.
I foresee covenant. In solidarity with one another, we each affirm. Our dialogue is an interfaith dialogue. We all have different communication styles and varying views. We commit to be in dialogue with respect for all, expanding listening to hear multiple points of view. We realize that we are responsible for the growth of I4C, and each of us shares a duty to interfaith growth. The governing board provides leadership, and the elected council works towards progress and the fulfillment of I4C goals as we grow.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dale. And I know we'll have we're not done yet, are we? Keep going.
I was waiting for the page turn. We recognize that we are imbued with interfaith responsibility. As such, we commit to hold ourselves and each other accountable to merit that trust. Respect for the diverse traditions, beliefs, and spiritual paths of all those who we encounter. Hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards and accountable to our communities and to I4C. Our shared time together is interfaith time. We commit to honoring the start and end times each time we meet.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dale. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So I have the privilege of giving the opening faith reflection. And to do that, I'm going to share my screen. I have some photos to share. I recently returned from a trip to India, which was just a delight. And I thought I would just share a few observations primarily from from kind of what I encountered from a religious point of view. We did lots of fun things. Can you see my screen, everybody? Okay, great. We did lots of fun things. We went to a camel festival where they had camel shaving. Isn't that just beautiful? Camel decorating. I wondered if there was a camel in there. Look at the color. I mean, in India, there's color everywhere. It's just so beautiful. We rode elephants. I even got to feed an elephant. It was amazing how gentle these huge animals are. And then we just got to know the people. And I think probably the most enjoyable thing about this trip for me was just getting a sense for the culture, the people, how beautiful they are. This woman wanted to share, was so proud of her young son and wanted to show him off to me. And he was dressed in, I'm forgetting exactly which of the Hindu gods he was dressed out after. I think it might have been Vishnu, but she was just so happy to show off her son to me and get my sense of, well, what I thought of India. We encountered a lot of people who were very devoted. This man it was a Sunday morning. He was just leaving his home on the way to the Jain temple, which was a few blocks away. And I throughout this time in India, I was just really impressed with the devotion of people and the religious sensitivities. This is the Jain temple that he was headed to, that we came to after he had been there. But you can see this beautiful, intricate design stonework that they do there. In each one of these temples, they have a central shrine, and again, just the Jain faith is. Chris, can you turn that off, please? The Jain faith is an offshoot of the Hindu religion. It came later than the Hindu religion, but it's very similar in the way they're structured and the way they worship. They have a central shrine in these temples that when people pass by the shrine, when the worshipers pass by the shrine, they'll pause. They bow their heads. Sometimes they prostrate themselves on the ground and they just offer their devotion up to the god. And I have to say, every time I watched this, observed this, I just saw this really love and pure devotion in their eyes as they passed by. Then they would walk around the shrine. There's typically a pathway around the shrine. And this is the one path just going one direction. You go all the way around. And as you're passing around, let me back up. You're passing by lots of frescoes and figures like these that are frescoes that are sticking out from the wall, and they pause and just worship the gods as they're going around. When they come back to the front, then they do their bowing and offer their devotion to the main god. Anyway, it was just really impressive to see their love and devotion. This is another town we were in, Pushkar, where this family was just headed to the temple that was just right down the street from here, and you can see they're all dressed up and ready to go. This is the temple in Pushkar. Again, every temple had a little different flavor, but they were all just beautiful and colorful. This is that you find temples in all kinds of places. This was in a just small neighborhood, a very tiny temple, where just in the neighborhood people could come, and behind that locked gate there was an image of one of their gods that they would pause and worship there. This is another temple. It's right at the foot of a fort. India, as you may know, the history is that they had, before the English occupation or imperialistic overthrow of the leadership in India, India had over 300 city-states, and virtually every city-state had a fort to protect themselves. And this is just one of the beautiful, really spectacular forts that we were in. But just look at that Hindu temple right at the base of that. Just what a beautiful spot. I was really impressed with their street markets and their food and their love of just art and beauty. Isn't that just a beautiful display of how they valued beauty in their lives? It was impressive. This is one of the farmers at the farmer's market. I just was taken by, just look at this man, and you just sense something, deep and beautiful about him. And look at this woman. Isn't she just a beautiful person? I just was really taken by them. This was one of our local guides. This is another Jain temple, but he was a Hindu priest. And so he could offer a lot about both the Jain and the Hindu tradition. And I'm going to, at my closing benediction, I'm going to just talk a little bit more about him. And then this is the local, at that temple, they had a Jain priest, and this is the Jain priest. You know, the marks on their forehead, you know, different faith traditions put different marks on their forehead, but all of those marks are symbols of devotion and love. I mentioned as you walk around the shrine, you can pause to the gods. These are some frescoes of some gods. And I noticed as I was walking around that the feet of these gods, some of them were kind of rubbed smooth and, you know, shining. And my guide just explained to me that many worshipers, as they pass by, they will touch the feet of the gods, and they believe that they get positive energy from the gods. And then at the bottom of these kind of this area, there was these frescoes, which are representative of some sea creatures that suck out bad energy. So as you're walking by, these sea creatures are sucking out bad energy from you, depression, you know, sadness, that kind of thing, sucking that out. And of course, you get good energy from the gods that you touch their feet. So I thought that was a beautiful image that, you know, by going to this temple, you can let go of all your bad energy and receive all the good energy and just leave the temple refreshed and uplifted. We also, when we got to Delhi, this is the last stop of our trip, we went to called the Lotus Temple. This is a Baha'i temple, perhaps one of the largest Baha'i temples in the world, but just an amazing temple. And of course, they call it the Lotus Temple because it's constructed in the shape of the lotus flower. It's surrounded by this beautiful water structures, and the architecture is incredible. They've won numerous architectural awards for this building. It's made out of concrete. I've never seen a concrete building that's more beautiful. And as beautiful as the outside is, we waited in line to go inside. And I thought, well, you know, the inside's just going to be kind of plain, but you get inside and it perhaps is even more beautiful. We couldn't take photos inside, so I can't take a photo, but I have to say the moment I stepped inside this facility, I immediately just felt this sort of peaceful, calm feeling. It's just a beautiful location, a beautiful presence inside there. It seats over 1,000. I think it seats like 1,150 people on just one level. I mean, it's just you walk in, there's just benches throughout, and it's meant to be a place of meditation and peace for everyone. There are 9 doors to the temple, and the 9 doors represent the world's main religions, meaning that all the world's religions are welcome therein. And each of the doors is kind of symbolizes one of those religions. Like there's a door for Moses, there's a door for Jesus, there's a door for Muhammad, there's a door for Krishna, and et cetera. And then there's actually 2 doors for the Baha'i leaders. It's really, really pretty cool. And here's some of the people who visited the Baha'i temple. I think it's one of the most visited spots in New Delhi. It's really beautiful people. And let me just end with another photo. This was perhaps my favorite of all the photos I took of people. Isn't this a beautiful woman? And I felt like it was just a beautiful experience for me to experience the culture, to appreciate it in a greater depth, the faith of these people. They're very family oriented. They really are devoted to their gods. It's kind of more, I guess I say that probably wrong. They really are, they think of themselves as monotheistic. There's one great power, and then these gods are all, you know, representations of that, and they kind of give their devotion to those gods, you know, just because they get different things from the different aspects from the different gods. So that's my presentation. And now I think that next in line is Diane is going to give a report from the governing board. And then I think, Diane, if you can go ahead and introduce Lauren Grayman from First Place for Youth.
Great. I just wanted to be, is she here, by the way, Will? Okay, great.
Yes, she is.
Fantastic. I had a panic attack. Welcome, everyone. It's Dave. That was such a beautiful report and beautiful photography and caption. Oh my gosh. Maybe you could do a time where we can see more about your trip. So good morning, everyone. I first would like to remind you that the next elected council meeting in March is our quarterly hybrid meeting, and will be in person and in Zoom. So have you seen this commercial on TV where the wife says to her husband, I've heard that such and such a college is offering a master's degree for only $11,000 a year. As her husband goes about his day, he finds his cab ride is $11. The address he needs is 1111 Abbey Drive, and he walks by a man predicting the future with a sign that reads, there are signs all around you, hinting that now is the right time to get his master's degree. Well, in the last 2 weeks, I've had such an experience with signs all around me. It was with the word bridges. The word bridges came up in meetings, during conversation, and even in special news reports, to the point I thought this is a little bit much. I figured it was a sign that bridges should be the theme of the I4C board report today. The board exists to serve the I4C council. The board's goal is to facilitate interfaith dialogue and act as a bridge of understanding and awareness over the 104 faith communities we represent in the Contra Costa County. We are here for the purpose of doing the administrative task so that you are free to dialogue, free to be together, free to dream. The board assists our executive director, Reverend Will, prepare monthly meetings with agendas full of programs for your spiritual health, growth, knowledge, theological exchange, and enlightenment. Throughout the year, we assist and support Reverend Will set up special programs, guest speakers, seminars, and retreats. One such program, which was initiated during COVID, when we really needed to share our feelings, was Meaningful Mondays. Now, Meaningful Mondays meet once a month to discuss an inspirational topic or book. Currently, we are reading Sufism, A Bridge Between Religions by Professor Nadir Anja. And forgive me if I mispronounced that. You are invited to join, and the information is in the agenda. In fact, everything mentioned in this report you will find in the agendas. To increase the financial status of our organization, we put together our first successful Interfaith Council fundraiser. And thanks to Christine Nadeau, she found donors that helped us with a $30,000 matching grant campaign last year. Last year, your board compiled a list of inspirational books, videos, and even a few museums based on all your recommendations, and it is on our website. We are currently compiling inspirational quotes, prayers, and poetry for our Interfaith Booklet of Prayers. We really would like to know what inspires you, and we are asking you to contribute to this project. For me, this project was validated when Father Tom said for us to keep gleaming and sharing the quotes and the insights that strike your mind, your heart, and your soul. Communicate. Let your faith community know what we are doing, and let us know what you are doing and how we can be of service to you. Our SOJA programs work on all forms of social justice issues and partners with various other social justice groups in the county, such as East Bay Housing Opportunity, Multi-Faith Action Coalition, Faith Alliance, and so many more. Who among you or in your community are the social justice junkies? Who would love an opportunity to work with our collective activism? Help us initiate the introduction. Our iChange program trains several adults to be members for the youth in juvenile hall. We are going to be setting up new training sessions. Do you know that someone who is interested in our mentoring program? Send us their contact info. you have a green team, an environment or climate committee, garden committee, sustainability committee, food security, then be sure to share the Interfaith Sustainable Faith, Food, and Farms Conference March 8th and get people in touch with ICANN program. Check out our 2023 planned iCare service projects. Invite your faith community to co-sponsor an event. It may even have an outreach. We may even have an outreach event that even you, you may have a outreach event that you want us to participate with your community. Suggest that to the iCare group. It would be wonderful if every faith community represented on our EC Council would sign up to sponsor and at least serve on one project during 2023. Many service projects require no financial outlay. As Father Tom said, dialogue of action is when different people of faith come together for other people we have not met, the poor, the sick, the dying, and the victims of injustice. The board has asked you to join the Get to Know 5 Congregations Near You campaign. Think of it not as a task, but an opportunity to go to lunch with someone. Father Tom encouraged us to take every opportunity to meet, have refreshments, or have lunch, and have a dialogue with each other as individuals. The work of the council can be enhanced by our outreach to the world, and our outreach to the world can become deep. When you and I get to know each other, who is involved? The Interfaith Board and the contributors will be glad to act as ambassadors to your community. We would consider it an honor and a privilege. Feel free to invite Terry Moss, Dave Longhurst, myself, or and of course, Reverend Will, and other members of the board to come speak to your faith community mission, social justice committee, or your clergy. Again, Father Tom, as you look at the work of the council and what the council is involved in, what attracts you? What are you willing to commit to? And most importantly, what is calling you that is not on our list? This is very important to the vitality of the council and any organization. The beauty, uniqueness, and the splendor of the people who come to the council, who bring their experiences and intelligence and take us beyond the limits that we may have imposed upon ourselves. By joining one of the committees, you might be the inspiration we need. Furthermore, the board is asking for, of course, financial support to continue the interfaith dialogue, services, and the dreams of the council. Do you know people who have connections with organizations that could help us with grants and applications? Maybe you know of a donor who is willing, like Christine found, a donor who's willing to begin a matching donation campaign for us. It never hurts to ask. Many of your faith communities are already members of many of your faith communities are already members and fantastic supporters of the Interfaith Council. As members of this council, we are asking you to check and see if your faith organization is currently up to date on their membership. On a personal note, I joined the council to be more informed and in tune with outreach and social programs in the county, and a means to allow my small church to be a part of a broader community of faith. Our church budget was already tight, but I was able to share how important it was to be a member of I4C to our congregation, and we have since found a way to support our membership to the council. Then I realized I needed to raise my personal donation. Now, after a few years involvement, my appreciation for the council and all that you do has grown into love and admiration. No, really. Sorry. Oh. It's Carol. Sorry. It's Carolyn Peters, a member. I'll have to get back to her. Anyway, let's see. Now, after a few years, you, the council, are a part of my life, and you are my extended family. So with a gleeful heart, I went to the donation page and figured out how to give monthly, just like I do for my grandchildren. And again, Father Tom, encourage us. Practice interfaith spirituality in all areas of your life. As you look at your life as it is, as you look at your life as you live it, what interfaith sensitivities are emerging? What touches your mind, heart, and soul? Thank you. And now we get to go to First Place for Youth and Lauren Grayman. I'm so excited to have you here. Would you please introduce yourself and take it away?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. Can you all hear me okay? Excellent. My name's Lauren Grayman. I am the Regional Director for First Place for Youth. First Place for Youth is a nonprofit serving 6 California counties. We are in Contra, Costa, and Solano, which are my 2 counties, and we're also in Alameda, San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Los Angeles County. First Place for Youth was established. This is our 25th anniversary this year, so we're pretty excited that we've lasted this long. We started as a very, very small nonprofit with 2 graduate students who saw a gap in services for foster youth as they aged out of care. And so they started with a very small program, very small budget that has grown over the past 25 years to serve 6 counties in California, and also we have affiliates throughout the country. First Place for Youth serves aging out foster youth. So as youth are turning 18, they're aging out of the foster care system. And what that means is the care that they received as minors, whether it was a group home or a foster home, that care ends. And the state of California recognized about 10 years ago that the care can't end when they turn 18 because they're only 18 and they're not old enough yet. And they're not, they haven't had the experience to be able to just be launched into independence without support. So they started funding called AB 12, which extends foster care until the age of 21. And those youth are called non-minor dependents. So they're not minors, but they're still dependents of the state, which means they get entitlements and support from transitional housing programs like First Place for Youth. So what is a transitional housing program? That is a program. We support our young people as they age out of care. We provide them housing. So each of our young people come into a program and they get an apartment. If they are non-parenting, they get a roommate. So we put 2 young people together in an apartment. Our apartments are chosen based on safety and habitability. We work with landlords throughout the county of Contra Costa and all of our other counties to make sure they understand that we are a program and that there are going to be some possible growing pains with our young people as they settle into independence for the first time. And we get them settled into an apartment, which many of them, when they're 18, this is their first time living in an apartment, first time living on their own. Which, like I mentioned, can come with some growing pains and some learning opportunities. So in addition to getting an apartment, they get a youth advocate. And a youth advocate is a clinically trained case manager that is going to be their support person for all things independent living skills. So this could include tangible things like budgeting, getting a driver's license. Maybe they don't have their social security card or birth certificate, it got lost through care. So they're going to get those documents with them. And then it can also be things like there are some mental health challenges that are coming up and causing barriers. Even before COVID, but especially after COVID or after the close down of COVID, mental health issues are very high. And these really impact our young people who spent their childhoods in care with a number of traumas. And without some of the mental health support that they probably needed while they were experiencing those traumas. So we make sure that we're connecting them with a mental health clinician and also supporting them on building conflict navigation and management skills, and being a person. The youth advocate is really their person to go to when things come up. if there are issues with their roommates, and to build those independent living skills. Now, First Place for Youth is an education and employment program at its core. So everything that we are doing with these young people is to make sure that they leave our program in a much better place with their education and employment and their ability to live, make a living wage, and they're in stable housing. And so the youth advocate, I like to think of this scenario. This is what I always talk to my staff about. The youth advocate is, and this isn't meant to be violent, but they're the ones that are leading the young person through a jungle, a really, really full jungle. And they've got the machete they're chopping down the things that are creating barrier successes. And they're really leading the pathway from where they're coming in from care into when they leave our program. And in addition to the youth advocate, we also give each of our young people an education and employment specialist. And this person is focused in on helping them kind of figure out for themselves their own personal goals on what they want to achieve in life around education, employment, and career. So it's very important that our young people that come into program understand they're adults. And this program is not, there's nothing punitive about this program. And there's nothing about this program that is trying to tell them what to do. We are here to basically be their wheels as they're steering the car. And we're just here to support them and provide guidance and tools and help remove all those barriers that get in the way. So our education and employment specialists will help to establish their goals. And so if they come in without a high school diploma, that's going to be the first thing that we're really trying to get them to accomplish, is to finish their high school diploma or get an equivalency. If they come in with that, then we're going to focus in on what we call post-secondary education, which is not just college, it's not just community college, it's any kind of vocational track, certificate track that is within their interest. And then we'll build on those certificates. So if there's something they're interested in, we'll get them in the door to get them, kind of sinking their teeth into what's interesting to them. And then we'll help them stack on to things to get to a point where they will be able to live, making a livable wage, a sustainable living wage, and be in stable housing when they leave our program. So in that vein, we have a lot of...
Lauren,
Oh, yes, hi.
just because we only have a little bit of time left, I think it might be nice to open it up for questions.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Can I ask one?
Absolutely.
What percent, of all of the foster children who turn 18, what percentage of them are, how much capacity do you have? Do you have the capacity to take all of them into your program, or a portion? What portion, if not?
Sure. We do not have the capacity to take all of them, but we have a lot of other transitional housing programs, especially in Contra Costa. It's a very rich service community. So there are enough transitional housing programs in Contra Costa to serve all of the young people that would need care.
And do you have any data that sort of shares how, what better outcomes these young men and women get if they go through your program versus not? In other words, do you find that there's far less that get in trouble with the law and those kinds of things?
I bet we do have all that data. I could reach out to our development department to get you some slides on that to share with the group. We follow our impact and outcomes. We're really looking at educational progress and attainment. We're looking at jobs, and we're looking at living wage. Those are the things that will indicate if a young person will leave our program more successful than when they came in, or their counterparts that don't get the services.
Thank you. Are there others that have questions for Lauren?
I do. Do you have programs to have with mentors at all for these folks, or connections? And when they're struggling with maybe relationships with other people, is there somewhere they can turn to for counseling and that sort of thing?
Yeah, we don't have
support.
Sure. Yeah, we don't have a mentoring program. I actually come from a mentoring background. I worked at Big Brothers Big Sisters for 12 years before I came to First Place for You. So I really believe in mentoring. We don't have a mentoring program in-house. We do have an alumni network of young people that have come and left our program that we can sometime connect youth to, but we don't have a formal mentoring program. I do think it's a really great idea and would be really helpful. when a young person when they're struggling, when they need extra support, they're going to turn to their youth advocate and their education and employment specialist first. And then we have community resources for additional mental health needs or any other resources that we can provide in-house.
How do you find housing in this area?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is not easy, especially right now. We have a housing team. So we have a housing manager and a specialist that are dedicated to Contra Costa, and they build really good relationships with landlords and property managers so that when we need new units, we already have those established relationships. And then we're just very careful about making sure we're communicating with them. If there are things that come up at the units, we want to make sure that they know.
And is one of your partners Hope Solutions? Do you work with
I don't believe so. I
Oh,
don't believe so.
I see Dennis's hand, and then I have a question too.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren, for your presentation. Appreciate it very much. How do you folks fund your program? Do you get grants from the county? Do you have other grants that you apply for? How do you fund the good work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get funding from the state through the AB 12 funding, and also additional funding through the government. That is, we get a stipend kind of for the young people and to serve the young people. But there is a pretty large gap between what it actually costs to run the organization and provide the services we want to. So our development department, we get different grants. We do a lot of individual giving, planned giving, and we do some events to fundraise.
Sarah? And then Cindy, Sarah?
Hi,
Hi,
thank
Sarah.
you for your presentation. Do you work with youth homes? I've helped them with them, just planting things and gardening and helping paint, but I would think you would work with them, and that'd be kind of a segue.
Yeah, we do work with youth homes quite closely, and a lot of our young people have clinicians through youth homes, the mental health clinicians. So it's kind of like a wraparound support for them. Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, good, thanks. Just curious.
Cindy?
Hi, I was wondering, do you ask for volunteers or anything like that for your program? And where are you located in Contra Costa County?
Sure. We don't have the, I don't want to say we don't have the need, because everyone has a need, but there's not really a place for volunteers on a regular basis. Because of the way our program is, it's not like a focused site base. It's out in the community, and our staff are out working with the young people at their homes or at their jobs or around the community. Our need for volunteers usually comes up around the holidays when we're trying to do, Thanksgiving and holiday events for our young people. So sometimes we could look for volunteers to either host an event for us or provide holiday gifts for our young people, which is where I think, Diane, we've partnered before around the holidays, and then or coming to the event and volunteering with the food and such like that. And our office is located on Salvio Street.
In town Concord.
Yeah.
Great. So next March 9th is our next elected council meeting, and it'll be a hybrid one. So you can join us by Zoom or by being in person at Hillcrest Fellowship Hall. Later that afternoon, Multi-Faith Action Coalition's Faith Leaders Advisory Council will be meeting about congregations that are trying to use part of their land to be able to build housing, affordable housing for different groups. Are you willing to work with congregations that are willing to set aside some of the units that they might be working on in a tiny home village or in housing that they're building on their properties that can be set aside for transitional age youth?
Yeah, I mean, those kind of relationships that's kind of what I see as the wave of the future for success for our program, especially with rents, kind of getting out of control. So we would love to be introduced and
so please feel invited to that meeting. It starts at 11 a.m. next month on March 9th, right after our meeting. Our meeting will go till about 10, but then this Faith Leader Advisory Council meeting will go from about 11 to 1:30. And Hope Solutions will be there, and many of our faith leaders. And if your pastor or priest or rabbi is not able to be there, you're the religious leader we want to be there. you as members of the Interfaith Council. So please put that on your calendar.
Reverend Will, could you put in the chat just the specifics about where and when so we can all.
It's in the agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you so much, Lauren. That was really excellent. Just one trailing question. Is there anything that you would have, the takeaway from us? What can we do to support you? And what would be the primary thing that we should take away and how we can help you with your mission?
I think that, we're seeing the gap between the funding we receive from the government and the actual costs that it takes to run our program in the way that we think that we have to in order to have the impact we want. So, I think fundraising is always the big ask for our community partners, but also supporting our young people, if there are ways to provide, meals or just things that help them feel special and are always good too.
So Lauren, we have a service initiative called iCare. So maybe we ought to just chat sometime about ways that this iCare program could be used to support your organization.
That would be fantastic. Thank
Awesome.
you.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Really
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Take care.
Our next agenda item is for Father Tom to share a little bit more. Well, he's drafted a new covenant for us for our consideration. So I think, Father Tom, you're going to walk us through that and share some of your thoughts about it. Then I think we're going to move into breakout rooms to talk about it in smaller group sessions. Father Tom?
Thank you, David. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It's my blessing and privilege to be with you. And once again, let us remember how precious it is for us to be in the presence of one another. On page 2 of the packet concerning the covenant, you have what Will just put up on the screen. I presented this in such a way that's in 8 stages. So just let me take a few moments, because what's most important about today is that you enter into your small group discussion, and then we'll come back for a large group discussion. And once we conclude that large group discussion, we'll have some idea as to what it is you're thinking about this proposed covenant. From time to time, it's important for any organization to review its mission statement, its vision statement, its covenant, the way it understands and speaks about itself. I believe that such documents are dynamic. In other words, they change from time to time. Because we are a living organization, I propose that we have these 8 statements that will constitute the covenant, and then an ongoing commentary associated with it. So as we have different insights that come as the result of our meeting together and sharing with one another, instead of always changing the covenant, we can add to the commentary by which we open up what we mean by the covenantal statement. Based on our discussion and presentation for the past 2 months, I thought it would be good for me to do a very, very quick summary based on what I heard from the wisdom of this community. Now, please, I have no particular gift to accurately and adequately filter and summarize what other people are saying. We always hear through our own biases and prejudices and perspectives. So I offer this to you humbly in a way that we're looking forward to your ongoing wisdom, consultation, and contribution. I'm not going to read the covenant as is now proposed. You'll be able to do that in a small group if you haven't already done so already. Let me make 8 observations about this as quickly as I can, and we can move to our small groups. One of the most important words in part 1 is solidarity. Solidarity to me means we are in the presence of one another, and that's a precious thing for us to be. We are what we want the world to be in the here and now of life. Number 2 underscores that dynamically. Our meetings are interfaith gatherings. We're not coming together to always be plotting what we do in the future. We're coming together because we are the plot of the past. All the forces that have been at work invite us in this moment to practice interfaith love and respect in the presence of one another. Section number 3. Our dialogue is an interfaith dialogue. We are open to the wisdom, the intelligence, the loveliness of other people. And hopefully our openness to one another moves us from being a gathering of other people to a family, a community. Number 4. We are responsible for the work and outreach of the Interfaith Council. My dear friends, we are the council to which we belong and commit. Do not fall into the idea of thinking that the council is the governing board. The governing board is in service to the council. All of us together are working together, listening to one another, and belonging to one another. Number 5. We work together for the benefit of everyone. While we emphasize our work in Contra Costa, over and over again, as we can see from the people that we invite to share with us, what happens in Contra Costa County is oftentimes indicative of what's happening within the world. So our work together is local, national, global. We always have to realize that our work is more significant than we might think it is. Number 6. The elected council, the members of the elected council will strive to support and participate in the various outreach programs. This is where our work becomes real. Our presence, our words, and our wisdom take flesh, if you will, enter into the real world in the work that we do. But you are not limited to the traditional works of the council. As dynamic members of the council, I would ask you this question. Do you want your work to be part of the council? Do you want the council's work and philosophy to be part of your life? Number 7. We know today that there is a crisis in many religious organizations, political organizations, civic and humanitarian organizations dealing with ethics. Therefore, it's important for us to hold ourselves to an ethical standard in our respect one for another and the people that we work with in all the affairs of our lives. We say this in our covenant to raise this consciousness in our heart and in the practical deeds of our lives. And finally, number 8. My understanding of number 8 would read this way. What we do here does not stay here. Everything we do here is for the sake of the local community, the nation, and the world. Thank you so very much. Well, are you going to send us into small groups?
Yes, and we kind of came up with these 2 questions for you to think about. What strikes you first, and what part touches your heart? And I think we're going to have folks in groups of 3 or 4, I think. Oh, that's too many. We need to recreate that. Let's
Hey,
get
Reverend
more
Will,
groups.
is there a place we can go to see while we're in the breakout rooms to see the covenant, the proposed covenant?
It came in an email Tuesday afternoon, and I think I resent it after a little bit to some folks, but I can try to.
Well,
I'll put it in the chat room.
that would be awesome. Thank you.
But actually, you know what? Let me do this. Let me put it in the chat room now. You may want to just take a look at it, but it was in your email that came on Tuesday. And then, so it's in two groups. Ooh, let me get it here to not just Dave. Let me try to get it to all of us. But you know, really, the conversation is about what strikes you first, and seeing how this might inspire us to our future work. So there it is in your chat room. Thanks, everybody. We've got you in groups of 3 or 4.
Thank you.
Please
Well,
hit the
thanks,
Zoom.
everyone.
And we'll be coming back in 15 minutes if possible.